Fellow tennis nerds, I hope all is well. I'm here with my buddy Ben, who is one of the most viral guys you find on the tennis social media with Tennis 101, even as a cool cap today. We've hit some balls a few times when he's been to Spain, for example. A really nice guy. And today we're going to talk about his journey in tennis and lots more. So how are you today, man?
I'm good. Thank you very much for having me here. Really looking forward to it and looking forward to chatting about tennis.
Cool, man. So where are you now? You're always traveling, it seems like.
I'm always traveling. It's a blessing and a curse. I'm in Miami at the moment, which is, lovely compared to London at this time of the year. It's sun shining, no rain, so can't really complain on that front. And good for tennis, I guess, out here.
Yeah, Miami is a tennis scene, right? The full Florida region is probably pretty good for tennis overall.
The best, unbelievable. Yeah, of anywhere in the US I've been, I've got to say, like South Florida, it's if you love tennis and you want a holiday, it's just unbelievable.
Do you, are you really able to play now? I mean, you had this, we talked about it before we jumped on here, like the shoulder surgery. And what happened to your shoulder and where are you now in the rehab process?
Yeah, so I had surgery beginning of October. It was due to a lot of things and accumulation of things. I've been gymming since I was 15, doing a lot of CrossFit, body weight stuff, and then I started playing tennis again around 5 years ago now, and pretty full on every day, 2-3 hours a day. And I feel like that was just a tipping point. So I had 4 steroid injections over the span of a year. And then I was like, I can't keep doing this. It's not good for the tendons. It's not good for my shoulder because every time the injection wears off, it just comes back worse, the pain. So I had the surgery and I'm 9 weeks into the recovery process now. So physio's going well. I've played twice since I had the surgery and it hasn't been pleasant. And, the level's just not there at all. But it's, it's a whole process. And yeah, just it's sort of good to take on challenges like this, I think. Just even it's not good for me. It doesn't feel good, but I feel like it's good for discipline and mentality.
Yeah, mental health training, right? Really, like when you're
Yeah.
injured, especially as like a tennis fan, nerd, or whatever, like you want to play a lot of tennis, you feel like you're completely handicapped just because you can't play 100%. So then you're just like frustrated. You have to work with this frustration inside of you.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. And it's managing those emotions. I want to go out there, play tennis. It's 25 degrees outside, but I can't. So it's what else can I do to stay active? And that's the hardest thing, I think, really wanting to play and trying to stay active. And no matter what I do, whether it's a K run, 10K run in the gym, it just doesn't hit as that spot as tennis does. And you probably know the feeling as well.
Yeah, you that tennis fix is tough to get. Like whatever exercise you do, even if you feel better after exercise as you always do, it's still not that kind of dopamine hit that hitting a tennis ball can give you, right? So that's the issue.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. It's a tough one.
Do you have like a prognosis of like how long this will take for you to work on?
So thankfully, because it wasn't a repair surgery, they didn't repair any broken, rotator cuff muscles or I didn't have a tear. It's more of they shaved the bone away. It's basically arthritis. That's what it was. So they shave the bone away, clean out the joint, and you can do as much as you can do, basically. So the surgeon says, if you can play. If it hurts, then stop. It's going to be inflamed. That's part of the recovery process. But it's going to tell you when it's painful and you're not going to want to play. So that's where I'm at now. It's, 9 weeks into it. I've got full mobility back. It's still painful inside, but you have to sort of grin and bear it and go through the physio.
Yeah, it's a tough one. You mentioned before, like 5 years, you got into tennis again. What is your story in tennis? You were a player when you were younger, and then you quit for a while, which is, I think, is a very common story. And now you're back with a bang, right? That's the gist of it.
Yeah, so you're in Marbella, right? You're based there. I grew up going there as a kid and always used to play tennis out there. And it was just, part of my summer ritual. And I played at school, but I also played football, and that was I loved it. That was what I would die for as a kid. I played throughout school. I played for the university team, and that was I wouldn't say passion. I just love playing. That was my sport. And when you leave university, you don't have that sort of team vibe anymore. It's like, oh, I'm on my own in the working world. What am I going to do? But it was funny because I didn't start playing tennis until COVID again. And I had an apartment in London with a tennis court, which I never used. I lived there for 8 years. I never used a tennis court once, only to play football on, actually. I have my close friends are pro players, thankfully. So they were actually coaching on the court during lockdown. I don't know whether I should say that or not because it wasn't strictly
I think that's
legal,
fine by now.
yeah. So they were coaching, and I was like, look, I need to do something to stay fit. I bought a rowing machine. and that was fun for a few weeks. But I was back on the court just playing with these guys. They were coaching me from scratch, and you still have some of the elements in there. You miss some things because you haven't played in so long, but I just became completely addicted, as I've seen so many people do and pick up this sport in COVID times, or even now. It becomes like, if you haven't played and you start to play, I think you're more obsessed with it than if you've played throughout your whole life.
Yeah, this is what I see a lot, and that's the same for me and many. I think when you get back to it later in life, you have much more of an appreciation for the game, and you find like a new love instead of you played pro, it didn't maybe work out. I mean, has been your job, right? You're not gonna be super excited. Maybe you like paddle more or some other sport instead.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like paddle, yeah, pickleball, they're also coming along the journey as well. People are sort of, I feel like, more than tennis at the moment. Paddle's crazy, especially in Spain. It's nuts. And all my friends who don't play racket sports are all playing paddle. And even the ones who play tennis casually, they're all now playing paddle. So it's crazy, crazy. I do enjoy paddle. What about you? Do you play paddle every now and then, or?
I play if someone asks me to play because it's fun, but I wouldn't put it in the same bag as tennis. And also, like, tennis is now work, so it's like testing gear and stuff like that. But it's not as fun, but I can understand the addictive, especially like when you're not used to playing tennis or you don't have that maybe technique. Paddle, you can be four guys and you have fun, like it can be such a fun time together. So I completely understand why that's been like an easier entryway to racket sports than tennis is.
Yeah, I mean, I like it for that aspect more so than pickleball. I find paddle way more enjoyable than pickleball. But if I'm on holiday and there's four of the boys and we all want to play paddle, then I'm more than happy to play it. But of course, I would much rather be on the tennis court any day of the week.
Yeah. I agree with that. So your journey, I mean, like you've made so many viral videos on Instagram and I guess TikTok as well. So what is your background besides tennis? Because you're very good at videography, right? Like that seems to be a key thing in your.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, honestly, my biggest passion in life since I was 11 has been making videos. I got my first laptop with a camera when I was like 11, 12, and I was just making videos, whatever it was, funny videos, music videos. And then I actually had a YouTube channel when I was in my teens of me making like funny parody videos. And it's just always something I've done combined with my love and passion for music. I'm a musician and I play the guitar as well. So that's another big thing in my life. So it was just a combination of all my passions. I was a creative director by trade from when I left university, where I studied economics, finance. I was good at it, but it wasn't for me. And I just wanted to create whatever it was. So I worked at a couple of brands doing social media marketing, creating videos for their products. And then in June 2023, I was like, okay, let's make some tennis stuff. Let's see what will happen. And I made a couple of videos. My first one was sort of how to do an overgrip on your racket, which got like 3 million views. I was like, what's going on here? This is crazy. So I did a couple of how-to videos and I was filming players as well. But then July 23 was when I made my first like funny videos, and they did pretty well. And I didn't expect them to do well. It was just like a bit of fun. And then I feel like that's how you fall into your job, though. You're doing something you love. This was combining everything, my passion for music, videography, sport, tennis, all into one package. And that's pretty much how it happened. And then I just built on that really and carried on making content.
Yeah, it's impressive. And do you see the music element, like choosing the music for the video as like one of the most fun elements of it because you're I mean, like me, a guitarist.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that for me is pairing the visuals with the music brings the video to life. Like for me, a video with rubbish music doesn't hit the spot. But if you have that music which is evoking the emotion and whatever, it really makes you, feel the video a lot more. So yeah, I'd say the music is one of the biggest things for me.
Have you noticed anything, like if you compare to making videos for other brands or other genres or your own brand, like besides like compared to tennis, like where is tennis lacking in some way in the way we work with videography and the way tennis markets itself? What would you say from your point of view?
I think that's a whole topic, right? Just on the how antiquated people think tennis is and how it appeals to the older generations more than the younger generations. I think things are definitely changing, and I've seen a shift in it because in this creator tennis space, I've only been in it from 2023 to now, and I've seen a huge shift in that year. But I've heard from people before that there was like nothing around. There was like nothing. You've been doing this for years, right? You know yourself. You're the best person to sort of vouch for this. But I feel like in recent times, in the last year or so, I've seen massive brands, Wilson, Lacoste, ATP, putting spend into the creator space. So that is, it's really cool to see, and I feel like it's just the beginning now, but there's definitely a lot more to come for sure.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to learn from other sports. Like golf have, they have the grow your game. I think they're doing a good job, like inviting like content creators to playing against pros with pros. Maybe it's easier in golf in a way, but still, I think there's
Yeah,
lots to learn from there. Also, the rise of pickleball, instead of maybe bashing pickleball, which we tend to do, all of us, it's maybe good also to learn like why is it like rising so quickly? Like, do we need to lower the barrier of entry to tennis? Do we need to improve our content in tennis? Do we need to have maybe like leagues where you have teams playing like we used to have with world tennis and stuff? So there's lots to look at from other brands and other sports and learn from that, I guess.
100%. I agree. And football as well in the UK, it's massive. And the way the creators do things and the teams do things, they're getting young people involved. And I feel like, I'm a millennial, so I'm not part of this Gen Z movement, but I feel like you have to be, and you have to hire people that understand how the Gen Z brain works, because these guys are the future of the sport pretty much.
Yeah, have you noticed anything beyond that? Like you had an amazing year this year. We're traveling to a lot of like tournaments, to doing a lot of events with ATP and with other brands. Like what's been your read? Is that like it's improving? It's a reason to be positive, or and what was your like highlight of all this, if you have one or two?
I think it's definitely improving. I feel I've been to some super fun events with Wilson and Lacoste, and I think those two are the guys sort of leading the way in terms of tennis brands and events and activations. The ATP are also getting involved with creators a lot more, which is super fun to see at the ATP finals. They had a couple of different creators there with different backgrounds. They had some influencers there, models there, just interacting with the players, and it's just content that people can relate to as a normal person, because pro tennis players, I feel like they lead a very sheltered life outside of tennis. You don't really see what they're doing behind the scenes. You don't really see them interact on a sort of more personable level. And people want to see this stuff. I feel like the UTS as well are doing a good job with their sort of, have you seen the behind the scenes interviews that they do with the players at the table, just talking freely? That's really fun. But people want to see that kind of stuff. People want to understand the players' mentality and personality and what goes on off the court, because it's a long time waiting around at the tournaments before you're playing, and all sorts of things. But yeah, I feel like brands are really coming into their own with it. I feel like it's still just a start and they're testing the waters. And my highlight, that is a very good question. My highlight of the year, I'd say honestly, it hasn't been to do with any brands. It's just been playing at some of the world's most craziest tennis courts, and I'm filming those. That if I can only film one type of video for the rest of my life on my page, it would be filming cool courts around the world. So I can't pick a favorite, but I'd say a couple of the rooftop court in Los Angeles on the
The famous
on the
one, yeah.
house. That one was cool, and the one in Positano in the hotel set in the Cove with the green court. Those two were sort of definitely up there with some of the most stunning courts I played on.
Yeah, that kind of tennis tourism is really cool, and I think like tennis travel, like for playing but also for watching tennis, is a like a growing genre, because people like to travel, and nowadays people travel more and more and more, and to watch tennis or maybe even to play tennis. Like I mean, I know I enjoy playing more than watching, although I like watching as well, of course. So it's nice when you see this, like that's a private court. Like there's one in Rome, I think, they're only like in a monastery or something. There's one court only
Yeah,
members can play. I haven't been there, but I've been just outside it. There's some
need to
really,
add that one to my list.
yeah. There's some really awesome courts in the world, because tennis has such a history, right? Like compared to many other sports, especially other racket sports, the history of tennis is pretty spectacular. So you have to kind of use that and create really cool content. And you're a good drone flyer as well, I've seen.
Yeah, I love the drone. The drone's a crazy piece of equipment, because honestly, even when I'm flying it and looking at what I'm seeing, it's absolutely insane to see the court from that perspective, because you just don't see it. And I'm flying it up there, I'm like, this doesn't look great from down here, but when you're up there, it looks like you're in heaven. It's madness, and it's cool to see sort of people's reactions to that on socials, because my goal is to provide these visuals that no one's seen before. That wow, the tennis court looks insane from that angle, and it's next to the sea and all of this. So those are things you can only get with the drone, really.
Yeah, that's it's an amazing piece of equipment. How much of an equipment guy are you? Like, you're really into cameras and lenses and stuff like that, or are you trying to be more like functional?
Yeah, honestly, I'm pretty functional. I have, I invest in the basics that I need. I have a good camera. I have a couple of good lenses on my drone, and you know what? Can film pretty good stuff on my phone. And I always say, creatively, it's more in your eye than what equipment you have. And I can create a really good video with my phone and grade it and do everything to make it look like a pro video. So I'm more of a fan of having less equipment and having that creative, what angles I use, or you know all sorts, what music I use, rather than having 5 million lenses, because traveling with that would be an absolute nightmare. I struggle with two. So yeah, not massively an equipment nerd. I have the decent set of basics which do me pretty good.
Yeah, I think if you have the basics, like you say, it's all about the visual eye, right? Like, I mean, understanding what you're trying to get. If you don't know that, then it doesn't matter what camera you have, I guess, right?
No, exactly, yeah.
It's like everything. So your plan, like, of travel 2025, are you looking into traveling even more, or are you gonna try to travel less because it's like quite hard on the body and like immune system? Sometimes it can be. Depends on your body, of course.
Yeah, I feel a lot of people say to me, "Oh, how are you traveling so much? Must be you must live the life." Honestly, most of the times, it's if I'm working at a tournament, it's not very fun because you're there. I was at the ATP finals. I was in Torino for 4 days, and 3 of those days I was at the site filming and editing to get stuff out for the same day. So you're not really taking in stuff while you're there, and it's tiring. You get back home and you just want to do nothing for a bit. But I honestly, to be able to do it, I'm extremely grateful, even though it is tiring and whatnot. I'd never change that. 2025 will probably be similar to the back end of 23, which is a lot of traveling to events, courts, and it's a cycle, right? I want to be able to provide cool content. My travel content is largely lifestyle based, which means I have to travel a lot. But look, it's tiring, but I love it. So it's definitely worthwhile.
Yeah, I think many tennis players are frustrated with travel, but at the same time, to the people I discuss, like when they're not traveling, they start to miss it. Like, I'm the same. I used to travel a lot as a kid, but and then you kind of stuck. Yeah, like you're addicted to traveling. So like you have 2 months without traveling, you're like, what is this? I'm going crazy. Like
Yeah, no,
it's
it's
like,
addictive.
yeah, it is
You're
addictive.
not
It's
wrong.
weird.
Yeah,
So
like
go.
sorry, no, I'll get home for a week and be like, oh, I'm home, and then like I'll start to think, oh no, I need to go somewhere else. Like, what am I going to do? I filmed all the courts in London. Like, I've got to find somewhere to go or something. But it's good. And the other thing is, I'm in a fortunate situation where I can have it subsidized in a way that hotels would you know, put me up to film some stuff or get my flights there. So it's another thing about the whole creator space is making it into, as you do, it's a full-time job, which people also don't realize. Like, it's not just, you're not going to Miami to lie on the beach for a week. I'm going there. I'm at 5 different courts over 5 different days, filming all different kinds of stuff. So, um,
Yeah, it's a, like, I think you see it's like with social media, you always see the glamour, right? Like you see the good stuff and, oh, lucky bastard, he's everywhere. And then when you're there, and then that's the same when I've been to tournaments, like you're sitting in either in a press room or you're doing lots of work in the hotel. So, and that's not glamorous, and you have like either deadlines or you're just like always working. So then work, even if you're in a new place, it's not more than work. It's just work still. So it's fun
yeah,
work, but it's still work, right?
yeah, exactly. The only consolation is, during my breaks, I can go and walk in the 25-degree sun or on the beach. Whereas in London, it's, freezing cold and raining. So that definitely helps.
Did you always have a connection to Miami, or was it like the girlfriend the thing?
Did I always have? No, I first came here in when I was probably 15 on a cruise, but I've spent a lot of time here since November. And for a lot of reasons, my best friend lives here. And during the whole of summer, he wasn't here for 6 weeks. And he was like, dude, you can have my apartment. Just, make sure you clean it when you leave. So I stayed there for 6 weeks and actually met her while I was there. So that's quite a recent thing. But I just love the life here. There's a side of the life here which is crazy partying and whatever, but me, I don't drink, I rarely go out. I just want to play tennis in the day and have a good night's sleep. So if you're into that healthy food, healthy lifestyle, gymming, outdoors, then it's really perfect for that. So that's why I try to sort of be here as much as possible, just have such a clear headspace out here, and I'm able to do everything I want to do pretty much with tennis.
Yeah, I think it has like the reputation of being party life, and like I think Marbella, for example, has that, and some other places as well. Like I live in Malta, of course, as well. So it's like, but then it's you choose the lifestyle. So if there's there's healthy food, there's choices you make. So if you don't go out partying, you can live a really good lifestyle, and you will enjoy the sun a lot more than like in London, for example, where it's a bit more gritty, especially now.
Exactly. Marbella is amazing. That's exactly the same as Miami. Like people can go to Marbella for a party, but when I go there, it's just absolutely my heaven. Since I was a kid, I just feel so at home there. And honestly, I think I spend 8 hours a day in the tennis club there. I have breakfast, lunch, and dinner there. I'm filming and playing the whole day. It's just my version of paradise. I imagine yours as well.
Yeah, it's hard to beat. It's hard to beat. That's like where the work life is pretty good, you would say, because
Yeah.
growing up in Sweden, for example, when you're playing tennis for big chunk of the year, you're playing indoors because of the weather, right? So summer is nice, but then you're like always indoors, and playing tennis indoors when it's cold outside. There's nothing sexy about indoor courts, really. Like I mean, unless you're playing maybe in a monastery, like, but
Yeah.
otherwise it's a bit not so good on the camera either if you're filming. The indoor
But the
courts
light's
they don't
terrible.
look,
Yeah.
yeah, always terrible,
Yeah.
right?
Not good. Yeah, not good. So that's the biggest issue I have, because in the 6 months or 8 months even in London where it's dark and rainy and cold, I have to go indoor, and I can't film my style of content on an indoor court as much as I'd like to. It just doesn't work. So it's either go somewhere else or freeze my ass off and film it outside, which I've done a few times, and it's not pretty.
No, it's like it adds something maybe to like adding a bit of a contrast to the channel, but then on the other hand, it's not something that like resonates visually as much in a camera, right? Because of the light and the lack of light usually.
Exactly. There's a couple of beautiful indoor courts which I'm hopefully will go to in 2025 to film them. But yeah, I can't really fly the drone in there as well. So I need to figure out how I'm going to do that.
So when you've been watching tennis, because I guess you've been watching some tennis for sure, do you have any like heroes among the pros, like current heroes, old retired heroes? Who do you like to watch, and what's your experience when watching tennis?
So I'm like you. I prefer to play more than watch it, but I will always have it on in the background if I'm working. So I do watch a lot. I've seen a lot in real life. I'd say I'd always turn the TV on if you had obviously a big three player, Andy Murray, big four, Kyrgios was on, or those were sort of the guys that I'd want to just turn on and watch. Like they just you don't know what's going to happen in the match. You want to watch them. It's captivating. Now I feel like it's the same for, I'd say I love watching Alcaraz play. I've seen him live a lot of times this year. And I mean, I just don't understand that guy, because I saw him play Taylor Fritz at the Laver Cup this year, and he made Taylor Fritz look like he was, a player who was playing futures. I've just never seen anything like it. But it's not even like he's hitting clean winners. I mean, sorry, he is hitting clean winners, but he's hitting clean winners up the like center left or center right of the court, which is crazy. It's like, how's Fritz not getting there? But I'd say Alcaraz is top of the list for me for sure, just in terms of that raw passion and energy that he brings to tennis, and his technique and skill is just really, really fun to watch for sure. And then, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's sort of in a lull at the moment with the big three all going out. Del Potro's just gone. It's I need to stop saying big three. I'm British as well. I've got to include Andy in that, a big four. But yeah, I feel like it's a transitional period in tennis. What about you? Who are your favorites to watch at the moment?
I'm similar in terms of like Alcaraz, but that's my favorite guy. I think he brings in like I would say parts of all the big three, big fours game, right? Like he's good defensively, maybe not as good as Sinner, but very good movement. But he can also play Roger style, like with flair and stuff, and physical tennis like Rafa. So he has kind of combined all the styles, while maybe Sinner is like a heavier hitting Djokovic, which is super impressive. And you can't like understand sometimes how he gets to a ball and then adds pace on a ball that it's not possible to add pace on. But for watching pleasure, since I'm also into the entertainment of tennis, I think it's important the entertainment of tennis for the sport in long term. I think a guy like Alcaraz who smiles, who's a bit more charismatic, is engaging with the audience a bit more. I think this is vital for tennis. Like we need more guys like that play, even if they're on like the antagonistic side, like Kyrgios a little bit. At least they're doing something, If they're botti like or just very dull, I think it's even if they're good players, it's not so great marketing.
I agree with you. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think Sinner, you appreciate the way he plays. Of course, he's a very, very chill, calm, collected guy, and I'd much rather watch Alcaraz over him, even though he's playing unbelievable tennis. It's just, I think you need that bit of, well, me personally, I want to see some charisma, and even if it's attitude, someone smash a racket. I don't know what it is. You just want to see, you want to be entertained, right?
Yeah, I think that's something people forget. Like it's an entertainment sport, and then sometimes we have to adjust. I understand players, they play it professionally, so it's their job. But still, like without tickets being sold and the rights being sold to TV and people watching it, it's gonna be tough to sell it. So we need really like people to flock to the sport.
Yeah, and you know what? The reason I like Alcaraz so much, I've been fortunate enough to meet him a couple of times this year, and he is the nicest person ever. And will talk to you, and he's just like, he's your friend. It's not like he's, whatever he is in the world with 4 Grand Slams. He is genuinely a really, really nice person. And I think he actually is. It's not just for the cameras. He's, I was in Dominican Republic 10 days ago on a resort where he was hosting a clinic for 5 hours, and he's got kids coming in and out. Everyone wants a picture with him, signing everything, talking to all the kids, showing them how to serve, hit volleys, everything. So it's really nice to see that side of a player as well, when they're sort of as good as he is and as a top as he is in terms of sort of the tennis world at the moment.
Yeah, being a nice guy is important as well. I think it's you can be like an exciting guy to watch with a big smile, but you can still also be a role model, an ambassador for the game, like for kids and stuff, behaving well, not breaking too many rackets. Although I do sometimes like some racket breaking, but at least I mean he's behaving really well also on the court. So it's a good one for the kids to copy, I would say.
100%, definitely. Yeah, I love watching him. And
So in
what do you
the
think?
Dominican, you worked there as well, as a kind of to film and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I did it was an event with the hotel, and they had Alcaraz there, and I made a video for Alcaraz's page, which was pretty cool, and the resort, and then a company called Lux Tennis, who find sort of luxury tennis resorts in the hotel space. So yeah, I was there filming, which was like insane. Just, I was on the court, just filming Alcaraz, taking some cool pickies of him as well. And I was meant to be playing too. I could have played, but I had, obviously, because of my shoulder, I couldn't. So that was a bit of a shame. But I still love to film, even if I'm not playing. I sometimes prefer filming as well, just because most of the time I'm filming myself. So it's always nice to film someone else.
Yeah, I know that feeling. It's also kind of you can get like really cool angles of people hitting the ball, and it's almost like you're learning tennis better by seeing someone so up close through a lens. You're like really studying, because if you're just watching, maybe you're not studying it as intently as when you're trying to record, even if it's with your phone or whatever. So I think that's an interesting way of approaching it. Like if you're really like you can get from the side, you're seeing the movement, like someone like Alcaraz, of course, like poetry in motion. So pretty
But yeah, the
awesome.
way he moves is different level. Even when he's just like casually hitting the ball, his technique's still so clean. And I'm a big technique nerd. I watch hundreds of videos on biomechanics, and even before I started playing, I used to watch all of your videos on rackets, everything. Like, I just used to binge watch everything. But I'm a big biomechanics tech guy.
Yeah, it's fascinating, like because it's a bit like dancing tennis. Like you have to have like good rhythm, good footwork, but then like also how the kinetic chain does the shot. And you can always tweak. Like even the pros, they tweak. You see how they go from like maybe a bigger swing to a shorter swing, more compact, more efficient over the years. And you see even Fed evolve. That's so fascinating to see them, like how they make small tweaks to their serve, to their forehand, to the backhand, and then take it to the next level, like in their game.
It's a never-ending process. Even the pros, when I've watched them on the practice court with the coach, they're telling you things that you get told when you're a kid, like, move around the ball more, make some space. It's like these things never end, which is also really humbling to hear. I was listening to Dimitrov's coach just tell him, make more space around the ball. It's like, my coach tells me that as well. So interesting.
Yeah, it is. So what's your plan for your own game? Like, you're a good ball striker. Like, do you want to compete? Do you want? I mean, now you want to get back to the court, I guess, and play pain free. That's number one. But would you like to compete, or just want to keep improving, hitting more balls, playing some more tennis overall?
It's a good question. I would probably like to enter some more tournaments as well, just for the thrill of it. I feel like it's exciting. It's a challenge. But it's just having the time to do it, and injuries. I stretch so much and I take such good care of my body, but I will still always get some sort of niggly injury, and it's like one thing after the other. My shoulder's okay now. I've been running every day, so I've got like foot pain. It's like, when will it end? So I just want to be able to play tennis again right now, to be honest, and just be able to have fun on the court. And especially because you'll have the same issue. Filming you on the court is your job, it's your life now. I really, really enjoy just hitting balls without no camera there, just playing tennis for fun and freedom, no pressure of a tournament, just being able to enjoy it, because you lose that a tiny bit. I feel such a pressure now to take my camera to every practice session, every match that I play. I'll try and film all little bits, and it takes up so much time and definitely takes pleasure away from playing.
Yeah, that can relate to that 100%. Like sometimes, like it becomes too much your job. So it was once your hobby, and now it's your job, and then like the hobby part kind of goes away, and you don't want to kill it. Like you want to keep the hobby part. So in some cases, if I play like matches or I play like league matches, I just don't bring any equipment like on purpose, and like it's sometimes frustrating because now it's a time where they release a lot of gear. I need to be on top of the releases, so then you should bring your racket, but you have to find an efficient way of not letting that creep into every session, because then you get so frustrated. I even now like committed to just playing with one racket, which is weird for me. So it's like it's helped a lot my tennis the last few weeks. It's just like, oh, you can play better tennis now because I play with only one racket for a while.
Which racket are you using now?
I play the Aero 98 actually with very
Okay,
minor
thought so, yeah.
changes. It's a great frame. I really like it. It's one of those things that I can feel like almost, like, oh, it's one of the best frames out there on the market, like where you get the most without like hurting yourself for it being completely uncontrollable. So for me, it's been a good change. But over the years, I've been struggling with like just too many rackets, confusion, bringing cameras, and now I'm trying to kind of. I'm a slow learner, but I could just making it a bit more structured, because in the end you're killing your enjoyment. Sometimes you leave a tennis session and you're like frustrated because like you didn't have fun because you were filming and recording review stuff.
I remember when we first played, you brought about 20 rackets to the court. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. I was like, we had that picture in Marbella with like all the rackets on the net, and these were some crazy bats you had, like the Wilson Steam, I think it was, the new Babolat Pure Strike, tons of them.
Yeah,
And
too many.
I was like, how does this guy play with like a different racket every 10 minutes? And you were just like, yeah, I'm going to take this one now. I'm going to take this one. I was like, God, if I did that, like the ball would be going over the fence into the net. I feel like it's hard, but that's as well as your job to test all the strings, all the rackets out. So it must be difficult to sort of stick with one racket and just go with that. I understand your sort of pain there.
Yeah, because you get also like I'm not really a gear guy. Like I play guitar as well. We can get into the guitar gear, but I'm not so
Yeah.
much a gear guy in guitar. I used to be a bit more like, okay, this acoustic, whatever. I mainly play acoustic and sing, but I'm not super gear. And so I'm not really that much gear into tennis, but I just got into this jungle of gear. And getting into gear on your end as well, like you're still with the same racket, or have you made a switch? Because I remember the 98 V7 being your racket of choice.
Yeah, so that was the racket of choice. I use the Blade V9 now, 1619, Solinco Tour Bite, with my go-to string at £55. But because of my shoulder, I'm now looking at sort of more arm-friendly options. So it's, do I reduce the tension by a couple pounds, see how that goes, or put in like a synthetic string? I've tried Wilson Sensation a couple times, but I just don't get the same like rip on the ball, and I hit I play with quite a bit of spin, especially on my forehand. So it's tough to get that bite into the ball. So these are all things that I'm going to start to question when I get back into it. Also, I feel like the blade's quite a stiff racket, so yeah, I'm looking at other options. I suppose you're the best person to talk to about that.
Yeah, it's tricky because like and I know the feeling also with your 7 that you use, because that has like a very specific feel, and it's like you feel so connected to where the ball is going, especially if you play with a control string like the Tour Bite Solinco. But then like it is tough on the arm, and the blade is a demanding racket, like then string bed, pretty thin beam. you're not getting a lot for free. Like this is what I used to play with Prestige, which is even worse. Like even thinner beam, even less spin, denser pattern 1820. So now when I'm with the Aero, I feel like okay, if you just focus on this, you adapt to that, and then you're getting a bit of spin and pace for free, which is like it feels almost like you're winning some points without even working that hard. While with the Prestige, you have to work so hard on every point. And similar to your racket, like it requires some work to win points with blades against good players. You need to really move the ball.
Yeah, I had my best friend's a pro player, and he changed from the blade to the one you're using, the Aero 98. And yeah, I feel like, I don't know, they're very different rackets for me. When I've tried the Aero from the blade, I feel like the Aero, when I've gone from the blade, I feel like I'm not getting anything with it at all unless I really like swing at the ball. Like I have to be super loose on both sides to sort of get that pop with it. So what string setup do you use in your
Now
98?
I'm using the Nordic dot string 127 at like 53 and 51 pounds, so a little bit lower, but still like a controlled setup. And I don't feel any like arm issues. Like some players, like it's a pretty stiff poly, blah blah blah. But for me, it's been okay. But I'm gonna experiment a bit, see with other strings as well, because I'm not super settled on it. But that's fine. Like I can have 3-4 rackets strung the same, maybe one with like a pound less or something. So that's good. But like for you, I mean, I think like a bit more powerful 98 is worth considering. Where there's the ISO 98 with a bit more, you're getting a bit more control from the string bed. It's a bit denser than the Aero. The Aero is going to be a bit jumpy, which might
Yeah.
suit your game, might not. Depends. Like, we're all very different. So new ISO coming out now in January, worth trying. Maybe even trying a Gravity, like a Gravity Tour 98 could be interesting. That's a pretty spinny control, low stiffness racket, so yeah, it might be better for your arm overall. So
Yeah. I tried
it's
the
tough when you go on
Extreme.
this test. Like the testing period
Yeah.
is frustrating.
Yeah, that's the worst part of it. I tried the Extreme, the Tour version, which was nice. I feel like for me, it's with my forehand, I can adapt to anything. My backhand's always been my weaker shot, where I'm always late on the ball, and no matter what I do, I'm just, I've got to really focus on moving my legs and getting behind the ball, and I struggle to. I suppose if it's anything bigger than 98, I'm struggling with the one-handed backhand. Really, really struggling to sort of get that control on the ball. And the blade I found is just the easiest racket to sort of hit a backhand with for me. I don't know, like I think there are specific rackets for one-handers and they all gravitate to, there's a set of rackets which people use, but I don't know if you've noticed any sort of trends with one-handers. There's a very different shot to a two-hander, and I feel like you have to really, really consider what racket you're going to get based on, especially because my forehand's better, but I feel like I need because I can adapt to the racket with my forehand. It needs to give me something on my backhand that's like a bit of ease.
Yeah, I completely relate to that as well. Like the one-hander is sometimes a curse. It looks beautiful on the camera sometimes, but it's like also a curse when you're playing some good players, putting spin and heavy balls on the line, and like you said, it takes longer to get prepared on the one-hander. Like it takes longer. It's gonna put more strain on your elbow as well and your shoulder. It's a tougher shot on the body, like the serve. Like that's tough elbow shoulder shot. Same with the one-hander. Two-hander, you get help from the other arm, so and also your body rotates more naturally, right? Well, you have to be super strong on the one-hander. So it helps a little bit of help from the racket, I think makes sense. But I do agree with you. I think most players on from like semi-advanced club level upwards to pro, they don't want to have too much of a head size because then it feels like a bit unwieldy, right? Like it feels slow through the air. And a 100 square inch racket, it's like it's gonna give you more help, but it's gonna feel a bit sluggish. So like a 98 with a bit more forgiveness. A friend of mine needs to switch to the V Core 98 or the V Core 98 Tour, which is a bit heavier. That's really quite nice on the one hander. So like you have the kind of aerodynamic feel, but it's a bit more flexible than the Aero. Aero is still a little bit firmer than that. So there are a few options to consider, but it's tricky that it's always that question, like, should I, now you can adapt with the forehand, but it's like, should I go to my strength and like try to strengthen my strength and make it like even more of a weapon? In a case, if you're a Riley Opelka, your serve cannot be hampered in any way. But like if you're a club level player, I think trying to take care of your weakness, so it doesn't feel as much of a weakness, is probably the best move. The one-handed backhand is sometimes a tricky one. You have to be like, okay, which racket feels good here? Which do I feel I can get to the ball and give a bit more forgiveness for like hitting that off center? Because when you're late, you're going to be a little bit off center, and then that's maybe toast if you have a tough racket. Right?
Yeah, especially on returns. Like if someone's serving good at you and they're getting your backhand every time, having that stability and being able to block it is, a lot about the racket as well as sort of technique. And I find the blade lacks that tiny bit of stability on those return shots where you have a pro staff or something with a bit more heft to it that you can really just block the ball and bunt it. But then I find those rackets too heavy on my forehand to swing with. Like, I've tried the RF01 Pro and I played with it for 30 minutes and my arm was going to fall off. So yeah, it's honestly just finding a happy medium and a balance of everything where you can play and just enjoy it and not feel too much of a weakness on either side.
Yeah. Did you like the Shift 99?
It was like a love-hate relationship with it, really. When I ripped it, I feel like it was, had a really good heavy ball, but I just found it to feel a bit like tinny almost, not that plush soft feeling that I'm used to with the blade. So I don't know if I should have tried a different string setup. I was still at 55 pounds in that, which probably was way too tight for that racket. And yeah, just a bit of a strange racket that, where does it fit? Is this a spin racket? Is it a control racket? Is it power racket? I don't know what really. It was launched as a spin racket, right?
Yep.
But which I feel like if you really swing at the ball, you can get a ton of spin with it. But I never felt comfortable with it, like on either side, to be honest. Very crisp feeling. Yeah, just not for me, to be honest.
No, it's like the vertical bending is not everyone's cup of tea. Like that creates the spin, but it's not. Depends on your swing style. Like if your swing style is one way, it might not work for you. Also, it's a racket that is kind of an acquired taste. It's like some rackets are quite extreme, so either you love them or you hate them, which you said. Like you can also have the feeling of one day you love it, and then the next you play a match you hate it. So it's a tricky one. I did like that one, the one-hander. That's why I thought about it. And you have that extra square inch real estate of the thicker beam, giving you a bit more pops. Maybe Shift V2 when it comes out. I guess you have a pretty good relationship with Wilson. Maybe you can get a test of that when it's time. I don't know when that's going to be released, but that could be interesting because it's a little bit of a more helpful racket, but it's not like crazy powerful.
For sure. I mean, I feel like I've tried over the years, I've tried 3 rackets, which I'm like, yeah, I could change this. And one is the Onyx V-Core, as you mentioned, which I've already tried for a couple months, which I really loved. And I actually used the Head Speed Pro for a while, and I changed that for a good 4 months. I was playing with that, and I really loved the feeling of that racket. I had that strung at like 52 pounds, I think, but gave me a similar feeling to the blade, that plush, nice feeling, which I can't explain. Maybe it's the dampener I use, I don't know, but I love that soft feeling for sure. It's just something I'm accustomed to and used to with a racket, which is why I could never really use a Pro Staff or the RF racket. It just doesn't feel, obviously there's a lot of people that like that feeling. For me, it just doesn't resonate.
No, it has to work with you. I mean, like I think also like if the racket doesn't speak to you in a nice way after 30 minutes of hitting, I don't think you're gonna work. It's like a first date. Like if you don't feel it after even 30 minutes, you're probably not gonna feel it. Like it's just one of those things that are more like animalistic. Like you're getting okay, this is something. This has some potential. But if you feel like I don't like this, then most likely you won't convince yourself after 2 weeks to like it. So tennis rackets are a bit like that. You can
100%.
and there are enough of them, so we can find one that works. But the Speed Pro is good. The Speed MP is also quite good, but it's a bit more flyy. But the Speed Pro is good.
That's a beast. I tried that racket. I was like hitting bazookas from the base. I was hitting winners from the base, like behind the baseline with that one. I was like, this crazy powerful racket. The MP.
Yeah. It's, the speeds are probably the best lines. Now they have gravities coming, and they have more rackets. Like this year is going to be big with rackets. You can also try the E-Zones, the new ones, very soft rackets, maybe a bit more dampened than you'd like. But and there's Dunlop SX. There's so many rackets coming this year. It's going to be it's going to be a busy year
as well. I think soon.
Sorry.
The new Wilson Clash as well. We've got coming soon as well.
Yeah, we have that one as well. Clash is also one of those that's like some people will love it, some people will be like, not for me, So
yeah,
it's a tricky one. If your elbow is bad, then it could be a good choice, but if you like control, it's gonna be a bit tough.
Oh yeah, massively. But yeah, fun racket for a bit.
Fun rackets. You have to keep testing. Maybe try like a hybrid with the Solinco, or there's a new Solinco string coming. I don't know if I can mention it, the name of it, but it's going to be a slightly softer string. So Solinco make quite firm strings, and that could be interesting for you to try. A light blue one coming next year. So guitars then, like, I mean, how much guitar do you play compared to tennis, and what's your background?
So a lot more before. Honestly, the background is the same as tennis. I played as a kid and then started playing again, and when I left university. I feel like when I left university, I just started doing all the things I did that I,
That
as
you
a
actually
kid,
like
that I
doing.
loved doing. Yeah, pretty much. So, but I always played pretty good. Like I play my electric more than my acoustic guitar. And yeah, it's my sort of downtime from tennis or everything. I'll just jam for hours at home on my own. But that's my release. What about you? How long have you played for?
I've played for like I'm a bit like I played quite a lot when I was like 15 up to 20 something, and then work and stuff came in the way, and then I took it up later. Like I've always been playing a bit, but now I play quite a lot. Like and I sing, I play, I write music as well. It's more of a like a release, meditation, but I really enjoy it. I like enjoy singing a lot, probably maybe even more than playing, but I like both. So it's really important. I think it like zones you out from anything. Like it's one of those things like tennis in a way. Like when you're actually playing, you're only playing. You're not thinking about work or emails or girlfriends or anything. You're just playing. And the same with on a tennis court. If you think about anything else, you're gonna miss every ball, right? So I like those things when you get completely hyper focused. It's like you find that peace of mind, the stillness in the pursuit of that activity, and that's music and tennis for me is a great combo. And it's like a good thing you go play tennis, then you can go play music and play tennis, and you have that nice balance, peace and war or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
What tension do you string your guitars at then?
Yeah, exactly. I like that's the thing. Like I'm not at all the same with anything else. It's just got into that with rackets, I think. But it's like I
Yeah.
don't like I have 3 acoustics I'm playing around with. I want to get a fourth one. Just it sounds like bad, but I don't have a nylon string. I have a travel one, and I have a smaller one, and I have a regular acoustic. Like I like electrics as well, but if I start getting into that, then I'm probably like I'm doomed.
It's a whole different world. Yeah. I have my acoustic. Yeah, I love it. But I always pick up my electric because I'm just where I edit. I just put my guitar in, and I've got like an amp simulator on my computer. So that's pretty good.
What do you
Literally
play? It's
can.
like a Fender or a Gibson guy?
Oh, Fender.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same.
I do have, it's an Epiphone, which is similar to a Gibson, but mostly my Fender, yeah, Strat or Telly. I have two, which are my go-to guitars. But they're, as you said, it's just one of those things that you can do without thinking and detach from everything in the world and just focus on that. And I love being able to do that because it's, just to create as well. It's beautiful. I have to listen to some of your music, by the way. You have to send me some
Yeah, I
after
will. I
this.
will for sure. Same. Likewise. So when with like okay, music, but when it gets to the editing part of your work, because you're obviously very good at editing videos, you've done it for clients and stuff. Do you still do it yourself? Do you still love to do it? Would you love to have like secondary editors to send your stuff to? Would you trust them? Would you not trust them? Like, what's your vibe around the editing?
So the editing is something I will never, ever, ever outsource. I can take footage from anything and put my own spin on it through the editing. I feel like that is the outcome of the product. And if I were to, my product and my editing is very, very unique and personal to me, that I don't think anybody could sort of, they could probably do a good job, but in terms of the way I, orchestrate my socials and the way each piece of video is put together, it's something that's so unique to me. And that is, as I said before, in sort of the eye of the creator, which it would save me a ton of time, but I absolutely love editing, and I would never let someone else do it, especially on my socials. It's just, yeah, I love it. It's weird to have a passion for editing. I don't know. I probably do, but I find it like similar to the guitar stuff. I can just put some music on and go and do my editing for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours and not even realize that time has sort of gone by.
No, it's for me as well. I've learning over the years, like not being so good at it, but it's like I've tried to give it to other people, and it's like it's tough because I like storytelling. Like I studied, like also I was also creative director for a company, worked for many years like that. Did commercial productions, like TV productions, with a lot of different companies. And when you have your hands on the editing, like you get completely stuck. Like you're telling your story, right? So it's so tough, especially in tennis because it's so specific, but like you want to tell it this way, you want to choose the music you choose, so it's tough then when you're just shipping off stuff. Like how good is your brief gonna be? Then you're gonna put in like 6 hours writing a brief, like I want this there and I want that there, and then you have to send 16 emails in between each other to just I don't like the ending here, can you fix and it's like the
Yeah.
same time.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing, you know, they don't know what you want to sort of portray. And the time spent briefing them on it and doing however many amends is probably equal to the time it's going to take you to do it yourself. And, you know, you have your own specific message or visual which you want to put out there, and someone else isn't going to know that, to be honest. So yeah, it's something that I definitely won't outsource. I love doing it, and it takes a lot of time, but I wouldn't change it.
How like into like some storyboarding or scripting of your YouTube videos or Insta videos are you? Are like really structured, or do you flow it more with like you have the raw content that you shot and then you're working with that? Like what's your process kind of like?
Yeah, it's sometimes everything's in my head, and I'm one of those guys that just doesn't write lists. I just memorize everything and go and do it when I'm there. I will rarely have a storyboard or anything planned. I'll have, whether it be clothes or a beautiful court, I'll just try, you know, I have set, you know, shots that are routine that if I'm flying with the drone, I'll get, you know, one aerial shot. But I have a lot of inspiration from film directors as well. So a lot of my stuff is inspired by that. And I like to incorporate, you know, different director styles into my videos. So I shot this video at the Puente Romano, which was an accident video, and it did pretty well on my page. It was called The Tennis Life, and it's actually pinned on my front page. And I was just shooting stuff, and I was like, oh, this actually kind of looks like a Wes Anderson film. I was like, oh yeah, I've got this shot there. And then I went back the next day to film some more stuff for that. So that happened by accident. So a lot of things, I'm just there and I see a shot, and then that can be the inspiration for a whole video. A lot of my videos, my fun ones as well, have movie references. Like I've done a Matrix one, a Pirates of the Caribbean one. So I love to incorporate sort of wider culture into my tennis page. So yeah, just drawing inspiration from honestly anything and trying to put a tennis spin on it is what I do. And this all happens here. Yeah, I don't really write much down. What about you?
No,
Do you
I
script
like
your videos
sometimes
or you?
script. I'm also a little bit more like I know pretty much what I want. So then I've tried all the productivity apps. I mean, it's many of them at least. You know, it's like you just try everything to organize, but then most of it's gonna happen in your head, and you're gonna feel better if you do. Like I have this 2 minute rule. Like okay, email if I can deal with it within 2 minutes, I do it straight away. Like I think Dave Allen came up with that. Like you're just okay, it's in my head. I do it now because otherwise I might not remember it. Right? That's instead of making 45 different tasks on a list, you know. But yeah, for the videos, yes. And I also like movies, like references, like you mentioned Wes. Well, I saw that Wes Anderson. I thought about that when I saw your video, and that's fun too. Like when you have like certain references, or even if you maybe so many people don't see them, like it's a fun thing for you as a person, like that this was a
Yeah.
reference for my kind of style. What's kind of your inspirations? Like, do you have some favorite movies or directors that you like to watch, or do you watch a lot of like cinematography or films series?
Yeah, I'm a big movie guy. I'm a big psychological thriller fan. So anything that's going to scare me, or horror films, I love sort of that adrenaline buzz. But yeah, Wes Anderson, I love his sort of stuff. It's very unique. Stanley Kubrick, big fan of his sort of visuals as well. Like The Shining is one of my favorite films. Also love Eyes Wide Shut, and just I love Christopher Nolan, pretty good director. But I also love, is he called Jordan Peele? I think he's called Jordan Peele. You know the movie Get Out, the horror film. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's one of my favorite films ever. That's like perfect movie. So yeah, I watch a lot of films, a lot of series, but they have to have. I can't just watch random like reality shit on TV. That will never. It's just not my thing. I have to have something that's, you know, intellectually stimulating or has some sort of, you know, art to it. So you won't find me watching the Kardashians anytime soon. But yeah, what about you? Are you a big movie guy?
Yeah, I like to watch a bit. Like I'm trying to keep up a little bit with what's going on, and like I don't see all the series, but if I hear a series that's like okay, I'm going a lot on like IMDb ratings. If you know downloaded something before the flight or something, it has to have some kind of critique, like interesting critique. Otherwise, I'm maybe not so interested because there's so much stuff. So you're like you don't have time to weed through like all the different like Apple, Netflix, and it's better you. Oh yeah, this seems good, and then I watch that. You know, so that's always interesting. But then I have a wide taste. Like you mean Kubrick, you mentioned all the guys I also like to watch. You know, Nolan, big fan of Interstellar and these kind of movies. You know, makes you
Yeah,
think a
great,
bit
great
beyond
movies.
just watching it and being entertained.
yeah, you leave the cinema and you're like still thinking about what's going on for the next week. So yeah, it's super interesting. And then I've just watched the Penguin series, which was really good,
I
really good
love that.
series.
I did not expect. I didn't even read so much about it before. I was just like, all right, let's watch this, and I'm like, what the fuck? This is awesome.
Yeah, it's so good, so good. And I'm watching at the moment The Day of the Jackal,
I haven't seen that. Yeah, it's
which
based on a
is
book,
really,
right?
yeah, and a
Yeah,
movie, with like a 70s movie, but unbelievable series. So if
I'm
you've
writing
ever
that
got some
down.
time,
It's good.
yeah, it's The Day.
Which streamer is that on?
I'm in the UK, it's Sky,
Yeah,
but
all
I
right, all right.
think, yeah,
I
I don't
think
think
I
you can
know.
get that. So yeah, one of the best series I've watched, and the final episode came out today, so you can binge watch it. I've been going every week, like craving the next episode. It's been that good. So yeah, definitely give that a watch. You'll love it.
Good for traveling. Like I guess you go on a lot of flights, as do I over a year. Like I can sit and meditate for 2 hours. I've stopped maybe working so much on planes. I used to do editing on planes, but it's like a bit
Did you?
tedious. You're sitting like sometimes like this.
Yeah,
But watching something is generally a good idea. So
yeah.
what do
I
you do?
can't edit on planes. I've tried to edit, but then I'll hit a block 30 seconds in because I don't have Wi-Fi and the music won't download, or the filter that I want to use is saved onto my cloud, and then I'll be like, oh my god, like this is just, it's ruined my editing process for the flight. So I just try, and I can't sleep, so I just watch movies and walk around. I'm like getting up if a long haul flight. I'm like one of those guys that's up every 20 minutes stretching by the toilet, just waiting for it to end. Yeah, can't sit still, as you can probably see right now.
No, but it's like it's probably good not to sit still. I think I my back issue that I've had for this last 2 weeks. I think it's partly because I had a moment of like doing a lot of content after my California trips. I was like sitting like Gollum or whatever, like you bent over and you're like, what the fuck? I mean, I don't like sitting generally. Like I could have a standing desk but if you're up walking all the time, it's good. But that's how back issues and stuff develop because you're like crouching over and doing these weird
Yeah,
positions.
even driving as well. Like I always have like my lower back on the left because I'm driving like this the whole
Mm-hmm.
time. But yeah, yeah, it's unnatural, isn't it, for humans to just sort of sit down for inordinate amounts of time. So I always try and keep moving as much as possible.
Do you getting into social a bit? Like, do you follow social trends? Do you try to keep up? Like, okay, this seems like a fun thing that's going like pretty hot on TikTok. I can do something of that with tennis. But how do you perceive that's gonna change like for the next year? Like, I mean, social media moving so quickly. Do you have it like do you keep up with this stuff?
I, honestly, to a degree, but not massively. I feel like there are lots of trends on TikTok and stuff that I could relate to tennis, but it's not my style of content. And I feel like that's the issue with my page, is it's such a niche style of content that if I started putting memes or random trends on my Instagram, especially, people would be like, what the hell is, what's he doing? Has he lost the plot? So I try and keep my Instagram is like my portfolio kind of page, and then TikTok I'll do some fun throwaway content if I feel like it's, there's a strong correlation between the trend and tennis, or I can relate it in some way. But I'm not a massive trend follower. No, I try and set the trends. But yeah, that's something that is, each social platform has a different personality or image that I probably portray. And I feel like you have to adapt to, you probably know, going from YouTube to Instagram, the algorithm is extremely different. Your audience is extremely different. So you have to appeal to a different demographic, depending on which social platform you're using.
Yeah, that's something you learn the slow. Now, like I think for tennis seems to be the hottest on Instagram. Like just like the amount of creators creating stuff. I think there's like more creators than tennis players sometimes. So many creators creating stuff. You're like, wow, another one, another one, another one.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of obviously reposting and stuff like that. I'm not a huge fan of that, but like there's a lot of creators, which is good. So it means that tennis is doing something. However, we need to have people watching the stuff, not only people just creating. But it's another story. But then TikTok, it seems it's tricky for me to see how I can relate my stuff to TikTok. Now I'm trying to do it a bit, but it's tougher. Did you notice like a difference between TikTok and Instagram? How different the audience is now?
Yeah, massively, massively. Even you, like, just stuff you'll post on Instagram, people won't care about on TikTok. And TikTok is more, people want to consume quick, easy, relatable, organic content, right? It's. I could spend 5 hours, 10 hours editing the best video I've ever done for it to flop on TikTok. Sometimes even on Instagram. Like Instagram is going more that way at the moment. So yeah, it's strange, but you have to learn from trial and error, I think.
Yeah. You have to experiment. I think this is good. But then within your brand, as you pointed out, talking about brands, you have also like you're doing stuff on your personal page, like travel content and stuff like that. Is that something you want to do more of? No, not just stay within the tennis niche, but like broaden out your work a bit.
I would love to, but honestly, I don't have the time. And if the tennis page didn't sort of take off as it did, I probably would spend more time doing that generic stuff. But then I probably wouldn't have the travel content because I wouldn't be able to travel as much as I do. So it's something that I do as that's a hobby. That's another thing that it's sort of like I don't have any pressure to get a certain amount of views or likes or whatever on it. I'm just posting it to my friends and family, and it's like, yeah, this is some cool stuff that I saw that I can just not have to think that I'm appealing to any specific audience with it. It's just my own personal videography, which I enjoy doing that without pressures. So I'm probably not gonna delve into doing that more at all. No, just stick to tennis stuff, and then that just comes as a byproduct of it. And yeah, when I'm bored or whatever, I'll just go through my bank of content and find some cool stuff to edit and post.
Yeah, I think I've noticed that as well. Like I've used to have blogs. I used to have like I wrote 2 novels. I've always
Oh
been
wow.
creative as well. Like so
Yeah.
I try to do stuff, music, whatever. But it's so tough when you're doing creative stuff in one niche. Like in our case, is both tennis, right? To have any creative energy sometimes left. Like even for guitar, music playing. Like sometimes I have like okay, I can write some songs in a period, but then like since you're working so much on the tennis, you don't want to sit and edit other videos or other
Yeah.
music stuff as well, because then you're like, okay, everything in your life is just work, then no hobbies at all, So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
struggle with that.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult finding that work-life balance when, your life is your work and your work is your life. It's difficult.
Yeah, I think it is. Again, tennis is kind of consuming in that sense because I mean, in a good way also because you're traveling, you're meeting nice people, and you're going to tournaments and you're playing yourself, which I think is if I was only filming and talking, I wouldn't be enjoying this as much. And I think the same for you. Like the playing is where it all kind of boils down, that we're actually having fun as well.
100%. Yeah, that's the root of everything. As much as I love editing and filming stuff, if I haven't played that day or done something active or whatever at the moment because of my shoulder, then it's like, okay, why am I doing this?
Yeah, the inspiration has to come from some fun. I think it's one of the things that they talk more about these days. Like having fun is so important, like a part of your life, part of your job, right? All right, but
Oh,
I
for
think
sure.
that's it for today. Really nice of you to take the time in Miami. You have a whole, not quite a whole day ahead of you. You're like 6 hours behind, right? So what's up for
Yeah,
the
we
rest of the
are
day? What you're gonna do now?
1 o'clock. What am I going to do for the rest of the day? Probably edit. It's grey today, so I may head to the court, film some stuff, but most probably edit because I'm super behind on my editing and voiceovering, which I've got to catch up on. So yeah, next few days will be probably just office days.
Do you go to Australia for this year's Open or?
I don't think I'm going to be there. I was meant to go there and I had plans to go there, but I had other work that's literally come in yesterday and today where I'll have to be sort of in Europe and the UK, which sort of it was a trade off, but I think I'm going to have to stay here. I've got some interesting videography stuff. So, as much as I'd love to go, I'm probably going to be here. What about you? Are you off to?
No, I was thinking about going. Like I try to pull some strings, but I might be doing some other stuff instead. Like might go to Zurich to do some tennis camp, like doing some content there and talking gear with some player, like competition players. And we see. But like yeah, Australian Open would be amazing. I haven't been ever, so it would be good. But yeah, obviously it would be good to have some brand activation or like press accreditation or something, which is it's tough to get press even if I mean we have a lot of traffic on our website, like 150,000 a month.
Yeah,
It's still
it's
like
a lot.
they will still do like, are you not CNN or even like this local newspaper, even if you're a local newspaper with like no readers, they will still give you the prioritize these old school media. So it's tough to be
Yeah,
like alternative media in to get press accreditation. With the
yeah,
brands it's a
it's
bit easier, but with media it's tough.
difficult. Yeah, they need to change that as well because we're the guys who are getting the most views, especially a niche tennis audience. People want to see this kind of stuff from a tennis, tennis person or someone who's actively involved in it. It's not just a random news outlet who have sort of no idea about tennis.
Yeah, and also like just writing articles about a match result. I don't know. Like it seems like it's not really 2024 or 5. It feels like now you have all the options. You have so many creators doing cool stuff. Like, you have to activate them around the tournament with the players, hopefully open up the players to being a bit more. I understand them, and also they have to be guarded. There's so many, people that bet and they want to they want to kill them, stuff like this. But the players need to open up towards the fans and the stuff to have more of a stronger personal brand. So we'll see. Like next year, it's exciting. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, let's see. Well, yeah, thanks so much for having me on the call. Much appreciated, and hopefully we'll get to hit some soon in Marbella.
Yeah. Best of luck to you and your shoulder. So you should be ready for some tennis. It's just being patient. At least it's winter now. Okay, you're in Miami, so it's not really winter, but at least like the season starts a bit later, so you can have some recovery time.
I've got time. Perfect. All right, buddy. Appreciate it. Take care.
You too, man.
Bye-bye.